Hey everyone, did you know that over 90% of you watching right now haven't hit that subscribe button? If you enjoy our content, take a second to subscribe. It's free and it really helps us keep bringing you great stories every day. I remember the day the world turned on me. It wasn't dramatic, not at first. The sun still rose. Traffic still crawled on the highway. My coffee tasted the same. But by the time that sun set, everything in my life had cracked in half, and I was standing in a courtroom defending a truth that nobody wanted to believe. My name is Michael Trent. I'm an architect. Not the flashy kind. I design schools and community centers, things that matter, things that last. I've been married to Julia for 9 years, or at least I was. Before the lies, before the accusations, before the videos. It started with a message. Julia called me into the living room one evening. Her face was pale, her eyes trembling, like they had seen something too heavy to hold. She didn't speak, just handed me her phone. On the screen was a video. I knew the room, the hotel bed, the man. He had my face. He was kissing someone who wasn't Julia, holding her the way I used to hold my wife. I started to say. Julia stepped back. I don't want to hear it, she whispered, her voice cracking. I watched the video again, over and over. It was me, my voice, my mannerisms, my laugh. I knew I hadn't been there. I knew I hadn't done it. But the video didn't care about what I knew. The next morning, I came into work to find security waiting. My office was locked. My emails had been flagged. My boss, Richard, met me outside with a confused look and a folder in his hands. Michael, he said, you need to take a leave of absence. I don't know what's going on, but there are some serious allegations. He handed me the folder. Inside were printed screenshots of financial records, transfers to an offshore account I'd never seen, my signature at the bottom of forged contracts, notes implying misuse of company resources. It was a trail of digital breadcrumbs leading to a version of me I didn't recognize. That afternoon, Julia's lawyer served me divorce papers. The accusations were official now: infidelity, financial fraud, emotional abandonment. The headlines came next: local architect caught in deepening scandal. The news plastered my face next to that hotel room clip on social media. I stopped checking the comments after the first dozen threats. I remember lying awake that night, listening to the silence in the apartment that used to feel like home. It was too quiet. Julia had taken her things. Her scent still lingered in the bedroom, but it already felt like a stranger's place. The courtroom was cold the first time I entered. Not physically, emotionally. Everyone looked at me like they already knew I was guilty. The prosecutor, Karen Voss, was sharp, measured, and quietly brutal. She played the video on the first day. The jury looked up with expressions that ranged from pity to disgust. That's not me, I said when I was allowed to speak. Voss raised an eyebrow. You're claiming that this is a forgery? I'm saying I never did what you're accusing me of. And yet there you are, Mr. Trent. She played the bank transactions next. I saw my name, my supposed signature, the dates that matched moments I could swear I'd been home watching movies or asleep next to Julia. I knew I needed help. Not from a lawyer, they had one of those appointed, but I needed someone who understood the language of digital lies, someone who could dig deeper than the surface. That's when I remembered Leo Park. Leo and I had crossed paths once years ago. He'd done freelance cybersecurity for the firm during a data breach. We weren't close, but I remembered his attention to detail and the way he rolled his eyes when people said things like, "I've got nothing to hide." I found him in a cluttered loft above an old cafe downtown. Screens flickered in the dim room, casting shadows on circuit boards and wires. He looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days. You look like you just saw your own ghost, Leo said when I walked in. I think I did, I replied. I explained everything: the video, the financial records, the divorce, the trial. Leo listened, rubbing his chin, not speaking for a full minute after I finished. Sounds like someone wanted to erase you, he finally said. Not just ruin your marriage, take you off the board completely. Can you help me? I asked. Leo grinned. I don't usually do courtroom drama, but for a deepfake this good? I'm intrigued. We started that night, Leo asked me for every digital footprint I could give him: old emails, phone logs, security cam access to my building, passwords to cloud accounts. He dug through metadata the way a detective studies crime scenes. 2 days later, he called me at 3 a.m. "Found something," he said, excitement in his voice. "The video's metadata is clean, but not too clean. It was rendered with a rare encoding tool, SynFrame Phi 8. Only a few people use that. It's elite-level software. And I know one of those people. A small production house downtown. Real subtle stuff. Ads, politics, digital makeup. The owner's name?" Leo paused. "Marcus Hale." I went cold. Marcus Hale was Julia's ex. They had dated in college. It hadn't ended well. I'd only met him once. Seemed harmless. But I remember Julia telling me he worked in video production now. Leo didn't need to say the rest. We both knew what it meant. We dug deeper. Leo traced the fake financial documents through spoofed software, used the same IP subnet as a former intern from Marcus's company. The money never existed. The bank accounts were dummy portals. On the surface, they looked legitimate. But Leo was relentless. "Someone went to a lot of effort to destroy you," he said. "But they got sloppy. You don't just erase someone without leaving a trail, not digitally." Back in court, my public defender was skeptical about Leo's findings. "Digital forensics don't always play well with a jury," he warned. "It's technical, confusing, easy to dismiss." I didn't care. I'd take the stand again. I'd tell the truth every day if I had to. Leo agreed to testify. "Let me speak their language," he said, "not law. Code." The day Leo appeared in court, he wore jeans and a worn-out t-shirt. The judge gave him a glance of disapproval, but Leo just smiled and started to explain everything. Slowly, clearly, and with visuals. He showed side-by-side video analysis, pixel inconsistencies, lighting errors, eye movement mismatches that the human eye could miss, but software couldn't. He dissected the metadata like a surgeon, pointing out the exact moment the video had been rendered. At a time I had been logged into my building's secure system, complete with facial recognition and time-stamped logs. He explained the financial records, the phantom account numbers, the forged IPS, the fact that not a single dollar had ever moved from any verified source. The jury was silent. The prosecutor looked rattled, and then Leo dropped the name. "Marcus Hale," he said, letting it hang in the air. "He owns the software. His production company registered the same digital watermark embedded in the fake video. This wasn't amateur, this was a professional frame job." The judge paused court for the day. I sat alone outside the courthouse, watching the sunset again. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was drowning. That night, Julia showed up at my apartment. She stood in the doorway holding a copy of Leo's report. Her hands trembled. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to," I said. But we both knew this wasn't over. Not yet, because Marcus Hale had gone to war with my life. And now I was going to fight back. I didn't sleep that night. Even though part of the truth had surfaced in court, it wasn't enough. It didn't restore my reputation. It didn't bring Julia back. It didn't explain why someone like Marcus Hale would go to such extraordinary lengths to ruin me. And if Leo was right, and he usually was, we hadn't seen the full extent of the setup. Leo called early the next morning. "He's cleaning up," he said. "I checked some of Marcus's server logs. They've been wiping drives, encrypting folders. They know we're close." "Can we still get in?" "If we move fast, yeah, but we need access." Legal access. A warrant, I sighed. The court isn't just going to hand us one. Leo was quiet for a moment. "Then we need to convince someone who can." So we went back to the courtroom. My attorney filed a motion requesting a digital forensic subpoena based on Leo's testimony. The judge looked skeptical. "You're asking for the court to authorize a search of a private business," he said, "based on a hypothesis." "No, Your Honor," Leo said from the witness stand, "based on a chain of verifiable digital fingerprints that connect Marcus Hale's company directly to the forged evidence submitted to this court." Leo presented a new exhibit, server pings from Marcus's domain that matched the metadata timestamps of the deepfake video, along with cached IPs used to upload the financial documents to Julia's attorney. The judge glanced through the documents. Then he spoke firmly. Motion granted. It was the first real breakthrough, a legal opening. Within 24 hours, Leo and a court-appointed tech examiner were inside Hale Media Studios. We weren't allowed to be there during the search, but Leo called me the second they stepped out. You're going to want to see this, he said. I met him that evening. He had a portable drive in his hand. Marcus was smart, Leo explained, but not flawless. He used a custom build of the deepfake rendering software. He forgot that each version leaves a unique compiler signature. I found the project files, Michael. I found the source material they used to build your fake video. It wasn't just a video they made. They built you from scratch, hundreds of hours of footage, personal calls, conference presentations, even family videos from Julia's cloud backup. That made me pause. Julia's backups? Leo nodded grimly. Yeah, he had her login credentials. My stomach dropped. She gave them to him? Leo hesitated. I don't think so. More likely, he guessed them. Or maybe she left them on an old shared computer once. Either way, he got in. I stood there staring at the drive. They used my memories to destroy me. Leo looked at me seriously. Let's use them to fix it. In court the next day, the mood had shifted. The jury was paying more attention now. Julia had returned, sitting silently behind my defense table, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Leo presented the new evidence: source folders, access logs, the actual deepfake project file, time-stamped, built frame by frame. He showed that my voice had been synthesized from hundreds of audio samples, that the gestures were AI modeled based on video footage from over 5 years. The courtroom was silent. Then Leo played something different, a clip Marcus had left on the server, a rehearsal. It showed the deepfake version of me blinking awkwardly, moving robotically, the voice stuttering. Marcus was off camera, giving direction. Make him look more guilty, he said on the audio. Slow down the eye contact. Add a pause before the kiss. That was it. The courtroom buzzed. Judge Rosenthal raised a hand. Silence in the courtroom. Voss stood, fuming. This is illegally obtained material. No, my attorney said, rising calmly. It was accessed under the court-approved digital warrant, and it clearly shows premeditated fabrication with intent to defame and defraud. The judge nodded. Objection overruled. Julia was crying silently behind me. At recess, she approached me outside. I had no idea, she said. I thought I saw the truth. But it wasn't the truth, it was a weapon. I didn't say anything for a long moment. You trusted the wrong face, I said finally. But I don't blame you. That's what the whole design was about. Making me unrecognizable, not just to you, to everyone. She tried to respond, but the bailiff called us back in. That afternoon, the court heard from the digital forensics examiner who had accompanied Leo. She confirmed the authenticity of the files, the timestamps, and the unique rendering markers. She had no personal stake in the outcome, but her tone made it clear this wasn't sloppy sabotage. This was calculated identity theft. I was called back to the stand. I want to say this clearly, I told the court. I never cheated on my wife. I never created those bank accounts. I didn't steal anything. What I did was trust too easily. I lived in a world where I thought what we saw was real. I looked at the jury. We're entering a time where seeing is no longer believing, where someone can erase your truth with software. And if we don't fight for facts, then any of us could wake up one day framed by fiction. The jury sat still, watching me. I stepped down. Karen Voss, the prosecutor, looked conflicted. She had built a case on undeniable digital evidence. But now that same evidence had turned to sand. The judge recessed court for deliberation. Outside, Leo leaned against a wall, eating a protein bar like nothing had happened. You think it worked? I asked. He shrugged. Juries are human, but we did the one thing they can't ignore. We showed the math. 2 days later, the jury returned. 12 people, 12 silent faces. The foreperson stood. On all counts, we find the defendant, Michael Trent, not guilty. The words didn't echo the way I imagined. They settled, heavy, slow, like the dust after a storm. The judge dismissed the charges. The prosecutor made no objection. I was free, but not whole. After the verdict, Julia and I stood together outside the courthouse. She wanted to talk, apologize again. I listened, but part of me had drifted beyond the pain. The betrayal hadn't been hers, not truly. She had been manipulated just like me, just like everyone. I don't know if we can go back, she said softly. I don't know if we should, I replied. There wasn't anger anymore, just a kind of sad respect for the truth we had both lost and found in different ways. A week later, Marcus Hale was arrested for identity fraud, defamation, and falsifying digital evidence in an active investigation. He denied everything at first, but the evidence Leo found was undeniable. And ironically, his own voice, his own direction in that hidden clip, became the nail in his defense. He didn't go to prison that year, but the charges stuck. His company dissolved. His name, once quiet in its ambition, became a cautionary tale in courtrooms and tech conferences. As for me, I rebuilt slowly. I got my job back. Kind of. I consult now. Work part-time. Trust is a funny thing once it's broken. Even when you're cleared, there's always a shadow. Some people see you and remember the headlines, not the verdict. But I live with that. Leo and I still talk. He sends me news updates on the latest in digital forensics. Apparently, deepfake detection software is getting better. I can spot what AI creates. There's some hope in that. Julia and I stayed in touch for a while. Coffee, occasional texts. We didn't go back to what we were, but we found something new. Mutual peace. Understanding. A shared experience that neither of us could fully explain to anyone else. Sometimes I still think about the first time I saw that video. How easily the world flipped on its head. How fragile a reputation really is when technology can mimic your every move. But I also remember this. Truth survives. Not because it's loud, but because it endures. And if you fight for it, really fight, it finds its way back to the surface. A few months passed. The dust settled, but the echoes didn't fade. I had my freedom, my name legally cleared, and the courtroom doors finally closed behind me. But there's a strange kind of silence that follows public betrayal. Not the kind you hear, but the kind you carry. People didn't look at me the same way. Some tried to, politely pretending they hadn't seen the news, hadn't heard the gossip, hadn't passed judgment. Others avoided eye contact altogether, as though my presence reminded them that even good lives can be hacked, rewritten, and nearly erased. I wasn't bitter. I was just tired. Leo, as always, kept busy. After the trial, his inbox exploded with speaking invitations, interviews, and security consulting requests, but he refused most of them. I don't do fame, he told me once. I do facts. Still, he knew we weren't done. We cracked the core, he said, but there's more. Marcus didn't pull all this off alone. He may have engineered it, but someone gave him the leverage. The access, the timing. I asked him how sure he was. 88%, he said without looking up. Give or take. So we followed the threads. While Marcus Hale awaited trial, his digital history slowly unraveled. Court-ordered forensic teams swept through his files. Leo had a back-channel connection with one of them, a friend named Priya working in digital evidence review. She sent us something unexpected, an email encrypted. Dated 2 months before the fake video surfaced. It had been forwarded from Marcus's company inbox to a private address. The sender? Richard Wakefield, my former boss. The subject line? Asset unlocked. I stared at the screen, stunned. Leo didn't blink. I had a feeling, he said. Richard had always been friendly, polished, respected in the firm, but I'd never known him as anything but professional. What could he possibly have gained from framing me? Leo explained it better than I could have imagined. Think about it. You were the lead on the city center redevelopment bid. That contract was worth millions. You were weeks away from final presentation. Suddenly, you're disgraced, fired, your access revoked, the project handed over to someone else. Richard, I said slowly. He took it. Exactly. He handed the contract off to a partner company. one he quietly holds shares in. Your fall wasn't just personal, it was profitable. I felt sick. Marcus had faked the evidence, but Richard had orchestrated the downfall. With Priya's help, we assembled more pieces. Payment records buried under layers of proxies, communication logs with masked IPs, and one damning piece of surveillance footage. Richard meeting Marcus outside a coffee shop a week before the first forged transaction appeared. This time, we went directly to the district attorney. No courtroom grandstanding, just facts. 2 weeks later, Richard was subpoenaed. His reaction? Calm, cold, like he'd practiced this before. But the evidence was too strong. His financial connections to a shell firm Marcus had used, the correspondence, the hidden stake in the development project, the digital blueprint of my destruction. Richard resigned quietly. No press conference, no apology. Marcus Hale accepted a plea deal in exchange for full cooperation. His statement confirmed everything. Richard approached him with a plan. He wanted me gone, quickly and cleanly. Marcus had the tech. Richard had the motive. Together, they had written a lie so convincing it nearly became truth. And still, in all of it, I kept asking myself, why me? Why not someone else? The answer, though painful, was simple. Because I didn't see it coming. Because I trusted the systems around me, the people, the patterns. I lived in a world where character mattered, and they used that against me. But what they didn't count on, what none of them counted on, was Leo. Or the fact that truth has a longer memory than rumor. When the final charges were filed, I attended the hearing. Not as a witness, just as someone who needed to see it through. The judge read off the list. Conspiracy to defraud, digital fabrication of evidence, abuse of corporate access, obstruction of justice. Richard stood there, stone-faced. Not defiant, just empty. Like he had already moved on in his mind. Maybe he had. Some people think reputation is something they can trade for power, until both run out. As I left the courthouse that day, a reporter followed me briefly. "Mr. Trent, any comment on the outcome?" I paused, then said the only thing I really believed. Truth isn't loud, but it lasts. I didn't wait for the next question. Weeks passed. Leo moved on to new cases. Julia and I had lunch a few times, civil, quiet. There was no spark left between us, and maybe that was okay. We'd both been pulled through fire, and sometimes that changes you in ways you don't come back from. But we respected each other now in a way we hadn't before. That meant something. One evening, I got an email from a university professor. He wanted me to speak at a seminar on resilience in the digital age. Apparently, Leo had mentioned my case during a workshop. I wasn't sure I was ready, but I said yes anyway. At the event, I stood in front of a room full of students, journalists, engineers. I wasn't there to impress them. I wasn't even there to convince them. I just told them what happened, how easy it is to erase someone digitally, and how important it is to hold on to who you are when the world tries to rewrite you. When I finished, a student raised her hand. "Do you trust technology again?" she asked. I thought about it. "I don't think trust is the point," I said. "It's about awareness. Tools don't choose sides. People do." Afterwards, someone thanked me for speaking, said it helped them understand the difference between being digitally seen and being known. That stayed with me. Today, my life is quieter. Not smaller, just quieter. I work freelance, I teach part-time, I help consult with a few cybersecurity nonprofits now. Sometimes I even partner with Leo on investigations, though I leave the heavy lifting to him. My story isn't extraordinary, not anymore. Deepfakes are becoming more common, so are digital frauds. But what makes mine worth remembering isn't the tech, it's the people. It's the fact that in a world designed to blur what's real, there are still ways to fight back, still reasons to. And sometimes, just sometimes, the truth is strong enough to be heard through all the noise. So if you ever find yourself doubting what you know, your name, your worth, your choices, just remember this. Someone else's lie doesn't make your truth disappear. Not forever. Not if you fight for it.